Welcome, everyone. This is Piney Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Andang,
Hey, everybody.
Terry Adwin,
Hi, hi.
Maven,
Hey, y'all.
Erithert,
Hello.
and Carvette,
At your service.
and your families.
But not my family's.
Not today. Feeling grumpy.
We'll begin with the big news for today, and that is that there is scheduled server downtime on Monday, May 4th for the release of Osgiliath.
That's right, Pine Leaf. There's 1 day, 15 hours, 24 minutes, and 42, 41, 40, 39 until the
But
update
who's
launches.
counting?
So that's great.
We are, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
I'd just like to say this is going to be my first update in like 3 years of playing where I'll actually be at cap when it goes out, so I'll be able to experience it along with everyone else instead of a year later. So I'm rather excited.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Carry on.
All right. Anyone else have anything to add? We've been doing all sorts of preview events for it, so
Yeah, well,
maybe everybody's already.
The only thing I have to add is that it's been pretty close to exactly 6 months. I think we're like 20 days short or something since we've had a major update to LOTRO. So it's good to finally have an update.
And it's a
All
good one.
right then. And one of the things that we had was a dev diary discussing the loot returns with Osgiliath, group loot. What exactly is group loot? Since most people might have forgotten.
Yes, well, that is the old pass roll and all that stuff. Situation where there's only a select number of items for the entire group, and you have to fight and claw your way to get your item. And or somebody just takes it without needing it, and all sorts of other bad things.
Or alternatively, you got a good group of friends that are looking out for each other's best interest.
I will pass.
Hey,
That's
there's
right.
a really cool thing. Do you want this? Your burger juices, huh? Oh, yeah, totally.
So
I'll
I
take it.
do want to go around the table and see if people think this is a good idea, bad idea, and why. So, Carve.
Well, I have to say that because I have been doing a lot of retro LOTRO gaming, i.e., I have been running everything from Lobby stuff through Agmar all the way up through even Moria instances. The group loot is still very much a reality in those instances, so I never really missed it not being there. I mean, I've done a lot of the scaled instancing, but with the folks that I've been running with on the lower level stuff, we're all just like, yeah, okay, you want this? Sure, here, take it. And so it's not like a real scramble for gear, unlike I could see some the term ninja looting happening in certain pickup groups. But honestly, I have not been up at level camp to see how nasty it can be. So I've heard stories about people who roll for no reason, who don't really pay attention. So I can see why that would be annoying. But with the groups I'm running with, it hasn't been a problem yet.
Yeah, if you have a group running with you, they're usually pretty understanding because the group as a whole wants to get better if it's like a regular group that you're part of. It's when you get to, like if you're in a raiding kin that can't have a full raid, which since these are 6-mans and 3-mans, it's not as big of a deal. But when you're in a group and you can't have a full raid and you have to pull in like 3 or 4 members each time, it's usually those 3 or 4 members that always try to loot everything. So it can be a problem, but in most it really doesn't matter either way. It just means that the grind is probably going to be longer for everybody, which is not necessarily a bad thing, depending on what you like about raiding or what you don't like about raiding. Does anybody else have any other thoughts, comments, opinions?
Well, I actually just want to say that I've been burned a couple of times by the whole group loot thing. I've several times did the turtle in Moria wanting the turtle head and mentioned to the group that I was in that the only reason I was in it for the umpteenth time was so I could get the turtle head. And somebody that joined at the last minute rolled it out from under me and then just dropped group and left.
Jeez.
So that happened. Of course, I have really bad luck with the RNG anyway, so
As bad as Draculeta?
it's pretty bad because my burglars run scaled instances with the Tuesday group, and that's not even group loot. That's just like randomly assigned stuff from the chests, and they get all this great scaled armor, and I get nothing.
She'll get a fantastic relic. Thank you for shopping.
Yeah, I don't even get the relics.
Oh man.
It's really annoying.
All right.
All right, then. Anyone else have anything to add?
What do you think on it, Pineleaf?
Well, seeing that I rarely do the type of instances that have that feature, it's sort of
Yeah, a lot of the community was saying that this was a step back. I saw some people that were excited about it as well. So it seems kind of mixed opinion from the stuff I've seen.
I mean, I don't tend to run a lot of groups. It's partially because, again, by the time I get there, people are like, dude, that is so like 2 updates ago. So, I mean, it's not something that is near and dear to my heart. It's important for me to always run instances all the time at Cap. So I haven't had a chance to do much of that kind of thing yet. That being said, the important loot from this that people be rolling on, I'm not particularly worried about. If I get it, cool, but I'm not like I must have 5 slot essence armor within a week. Like,
Well, they
you know.
did. I mean, I agree, not within a week, but they did say that you'll likely want the gear for whatever's coming next.
Yeah. I mean, but like looking at this,
So-
the difference, it's a very, very, very slight differences
Yeah.
in the stats. So it's like, and I just finished getting, I'll talk more about it, like all the, like the gear that I want in 4 slots. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Just finished that whole grind. So I'm not particularly keen on doing it all over again. So for me, I'm like, I really couldn't care less. If, it's important to make sure you get somebody that you trust and you're in groups with people that you trust, but I don't know.
All
Well,
right.
since 2 of the instances are only 3-mans, it's probably going to be more likely that you'll actually get a group of people together that
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So probably not going to be as much of a problem as the 12-man raids where you have to pull in somebody from World or whatever. It's a lot easier to get together a group of 3 or even a group of 6.
Yeah, I don't expect to have issues getting groups because you'll see people running them all the time, and you'll have people that after doing a few of them that run them all the time. If you want to run them all the time, yeah, I don't see it being too much of a problem. I don't see it being as big of a problem as the people that are afraid of it being a problem are afraid it will be a problem. That really did make sense.
I was tracking.
Oh, I'm glad
I got
it
I got
did.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
Carb got it.
So the consensus is meh with a negative
Yeah.
inclination.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, then. Then let's head into the next bit of news, and that is the imbuement dev diary. That actually came through?
Yes, it did.
Okay, because I
But
I
it
somehow
didn't
missed it.
really tell you anything new
It told
at
us
all,
absolutely nothing new.
which is why it wasn't in the show notes before we started the show. But
Ah, okay.
Ah, gotcha.
But it is
All
cool
right.
that they are still communicating. I am glad that they're releasing dev diaries. They are important for communicating to the players as much as possible because we were in a state for a while in LOTRO's history where we had no dev diaries, no videos, no nothing. And that
It
was a
does-
really sad time.
I will say that this dev diary is handy because it tells you exactly what you're getting, like exactly what each of the items is going to do post imbuement. It gets you a better idea of, like, because before it's been like, well, what is this going to turn into? What's that going to turn into? This is the first official statement from Turbine and LOTRO being like, this is what this is going to do. People in the forums have already done it and made their own guides, but this is the first one that they've made, which
Yeah.
is kind of nice to see.
It is a nice guide to refer to once you're actually in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
they
right.
did talk about it. They did talk about it during the stream last Thursday, but again, it might not have been anything. They were showing it up on the screen and showing the, what it'll look like and whatnot, and did kind of a little bit of a demo. But I don't know that it was anything new.
Yep, nothing really new. But yeah, that's all right. They showed it to everybody, which is great.
Yes.
Very well then. Let's then head to the next bit of news, and that is they posted the current planned what their current plans are for the Russian players. Unfortunately, Turbine does not have access to the information about the Russian accounts. They have none, and apparently it would be difficult or impossible to get it based on current Russian law. So you'd be running into law problems in addition to anything else on that matter. So therefore, Turbine is offering the following, since they don't know what the individual players have, and that is 750 Turbine points, a
Stone.
basically a stone,
An
the
XP
stone that
stone.
yeah, the XP stone, the LOTRO starter kit, and the Moria and Mirkwood expansions.
That's
This
pretty
stone,
nice.
this stone is
Expansions.
basically the Outriders token, same thing.
Well,
Yep.
And that
it's
plus
the same thing except
25%
10
XP
levels
boost.
later.
Yeah.
Right. Morian Mirkwood expansions is really nice though.
Yes, it is.
I
Mm-hmm.
wish that they'd give at least like the base game to people at this point. Now that we're at level 100, you'd think, especially a lot of MMOs have been doing that, where they gradually give more and more content for free. So that's one thing I wish LOTRO would do. But it's good that the Russian players now have that.
Oh, Fredalis in the chat is pointing out that it's the quest packs, not the expansions, because the expansion
Okay.
Still
actually
good.
includes the 2 extra
Okay.
classes, which are
Thank
not
you for
included in
that
the quest.
clarification. The problem is it's hard to. The post that was given by Turbine was not in English, but in Russian.
Yeah, and apparently they're also closing the servers June 1st, not May 1st, because of a translation issue that people had. So apparently it's June 1st. Yay, corrections.
Cool.
Very well then. Then let's then head on to the store sales. And what's on sale this week?
Well, this week's free sample is a +5 hope boost for 90 minutes. Use coupon code 4HTKN 2 times per account.
See, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, whatever. It's a +5 token, but the code is a 4.
Oh, that's
We also have 20% off stat tomes, regeneration food, run speed boosts, and +5% attack damage.
yeah. Actually, the original code was with a 5,
Yeah.
but that code did not work, so they issued a new code to replace it.
Ah.
And so the new code has a 4 in it instead of a 5, since the old one had a 5 and they couldn't use the same code. Let's go
The
into
more
our
you know.
yes. Let's go into the site news, and we had Lotro Academy episode 104, impromptu questions, which was one of our off-topic episodes where Brannick decided to ask some questions to the rest of the hosts to get their opinions on certain things.
And what'd you think of the episode you were on, Pineleaf?
I have not yet listened to the episode, so
You
I
were
can only
on
give
it.
the point of view of being on it. Yes. Well, I think there were one or two times where I might have decided that afterwards, thinking maybe I should have answered this instead of that. But that's always what happens when you're throwing a question on the spot in the middle of the.
You're really selling the episode, Pineleaf. That's...
Yes, I know, I know. You asked me to sell something? Boy, you're asking
So
the wrong
demanding.
person for that. Yes. Let's go into the poll. And the question is, do you use the Lotro forums?
Yes, is the top answer with 57 votes. Just kidding, 57%, 115 votes. And no is the next answer with 20% of the vote. Only the dev tracker with 18% of the vote, just 4 votes behind no. And other with 5%. So the majority of people use the forums more than just the dev tracker. So that's kind of interesting, I thought.
The dev tracker gets kind of boring. Like, in all honesty.
Yes, but aside from when it doesn't pick things up, that is really the only source of news. So it was more just, do you use the forums for news or do you use it for other forumy stuff?
Community. Yeah.
Whenever I'm trying out something new, I'll hit the forums and I'll hit like the Guardian forums or the Champ
Yeah.
forums or the Warden forums. And I'll be like, all right, I have no idea what I'm doing. My Warden
Nope.
can wave a spear and fling a shield, but I'm not Captain America, so I need
Nope.
some
Nope.
more
Nope.
information. So, I'll poke in and I'll see some of the guides and stuff. And that's about what I like to do for the forums.
Locher Lover
I
in the
love the
chat
forums.
asks, what is the dev tracker? It is basically whenever the dev posts something, it shows up in the dev tracker. There's a tab on the forums where you can click on that and you can see every post made by the dev as long as the forum works properly and picks it up. Um, so that's basically what it is, and it can be really useful for tracking news. In fact, that's pretty much all I use the forums for because I'm mostly concerned about news.
I love the forums.
The forums
Like,
are great. Every now
they're
and then I'll
really
just
good.
go all over and look at all the stuff that people are doing.
Granted, they have more than their fair share of trolls and terrible people, but I'm I love the forums. The Guardian forums. The Guardian forums are the only reason I can actually play a Guardian. Is from going on there and reading all this stuff from all these different people and different ideas. Everyone's always bouncing off each other and stuff. Maybe I'm probably biased, but the Guardian forums are great in particular. So yeah, I love the forums.
See,
Yeah, it
I'm really
seems like
stubborn and I don't want anybody telling me how I'm supposed to play my class, which is why I will fight people to the death over what they say about champions. 'Cause there are plenty of people that tell me that I champion wrong, and I'm like, yeah, get out of my face.
You're preaching to the choir here, Terry Adwin. I
So,
agree.
yeah.
Well, I mean, the
And
information.
so I'll use the dev tracker occasionally to see what the devs have posted, but I don't can't spend too much time on the forums because there's always that one post that makes me go, yeah, nope, and I won't look at the forums for like 6 months because trolls.
Yeah, there's always like one or two very opinionated people per class that are
Yeah.
just like, I am the authority, you shall bow and worship my post. And everybody else is like, just ignore him. He's a troll, don't feed him. And then there's usually several counter arguments, and you end up either getting into somebody who has taken a spreadsheet and has run thousands of permutations of, hitting this test dummy to get you the exact min-max super formula. And then there's people who are like, yeah, the Guardian's cool. You just kill stuff. And so there's like this mix of like the Uber and the analysts versus there's also just kind of, play it the way you like. If you like sword and shield, fine, do that. If you want to play it with a big sword, do that. If you want to use a big axe, do that. So you have to take the forums with a grain of salt. There's a lot of opinion flying around, and you just kind of decide which one you like and you run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's pretty
And
much forums for any game from my experience.
Yeah.
yeah. And it's one of those things where like just take everything, figure out which parts you like and you want to incorporate into your gameplay, and if there's none, then cool. Like people have told me try this out, especially on the like the creep forums, the monster play forums, talking about warg builds, which corruptions should use on my warg, and everyone is like super confident that their way is the best way, and it's like you can't just be like okay sure, because then what about everybody else's way? So it's one of those things where it's cool to get ideas from and things to test and try out, and then you go and figure out yourself what you like with a little bit more information than you might have had before.
All right,
All right, then. Anything else want to be added?
we're good, Pineleaf.
All right, then let's go to Weatherstock. Let's go to Weatherstock.
Yay, Weatherstock. Maybe
Yes.
I'll actually get a title this year.
Ooh.
I
The
didn't get my
date for
title last year.
Ah.
It's
The
all right.
Weatherstock date has been announced. Weatherstock
Just go again this
7
year.
will be on July 25th.
25th.
Cool.
I've never
Mark the
been. I'm
calendars.
excited.
Beating
Mark the
Star Wars to
calendars
the punch.
someday.
Right. And we will see which bands have adjusted to the new music system the best.
There you go.
That's right. It'll be an interesting Weatherstock this year, but hopefully it'll be even bigger than last year. I hope
Ooh.
Frelorn will promote it and really stream it again, just like Sabians did last year, because that added so much more awareness and so many more people to the event. So
Yeah,
I
wonder.
it
really
was
hope that
huge.
Turbine helps really promote it to make it be even bigger.
At one
Fingers
point,
crossed we won't crash the server this year.
they at one point they were talking about doing like an instance, so they didn't have to keep killing things. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but if it does, that would be absolutely stupendous if they made it an instanced thing just for Weatherstock.
Yeah, well, there have already been notes before that they actually do move extra server resources just for this event once a year, because
Nice.
otherwise it would crash even sooner.
Yeah.
Because they turn
So,
off layering in the area.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see when the server migration is.
Yeah,
I bet it'll be way after this, but
they'll probably be like, "We got to get it done before Weatherstock."
it would be hilarious if it was like July 25th, server migration. No.
Kaboom.
No, it'll probably happen on a Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Everything happens on Mondays. Sometimes
Except when it happens.
Tuesdays.
All right, let's go into our video highlight for the week, No Return, which is a story told. Fortunately, the story is done without voice because it was done by a Russian group, and we wouldn't understand anything in it if it was dependent on being able to understand what was being said. Ending, you chose this.
Yes, I did choose it, Pine Leaf. I choose videos every week.
Yes.
This one was about a really
Oh.
emotionally filled story. I don't want to spoil it because it's really impactful when it happens, but it's a story about love and war, and it's just a fantastic story. It is one of my absolute favorite video highlights. It is just fantastic. It's really well done, and it's a very concise story that's told really well through a visual medium. So I really enjoyed it.
Bring tissues.
This
Bring
video
tissues.
did not need words.
Yeah.
No,
I literally am.
seriously, bring tissues.
Yeah, yeah. Like here I am, big macho carve, going, "Oh my god!"
It's like the
Yeah.
first 8 minutes of Up or something.
It was.
I think that this is honestly the only LOTRO video I've ever watched that has had an emotional impact on me. So
That
it's
wasn't
really good.
laughter.
It also made me super nostalgic for the old champion animations.
I didn't
Ah.
even notice that.
Yeah, because I hadn't really noticed how much the animations had changed until I watched this video, and it was like, oh, I remember when we used to do that, and we don't do it anymore.
Alas.
Yeah.
And speaking of stories, we also have an update to the Family Line Part 42. Arrest.
Answer.
And in this story, well, let's just say we have a little respite, right? We'll find out by reading it.
Okay.
And well, can't say much else. Well, can't go into too much without spoiling it, right?
Yeah, it's always hard to talk about like this is what it is without messing it up for people who haven't seen it.
So, for those of us who haven't read the series from the very beginning, is there like an easy way to pick it out of the Lotro Players archives to start at episode 1 and then just start binging?
Oh, I go by the author. Since
Yeah,
Okay.
search
Yep.
by Tim.
Just
Tim
go,
Haddon.
yeah, just click on his name on this article, and it'll give you all his past articles.
Okay. Because I tried to start finding episode 1, and after digging for about 5 minutes, I was like,
You can
dude.
also just search in the sidebar, probably the Family Line Part 1.
Okay.
Yeah, but I find it easier to click his name,
Yep, it is faster for me
And-
too.
and that way you could continue on to the next episode, next
Mhm.
episode.
All right. I'll look for Tim then.
Very well then. Let's then go into the new player question. What's your question this week, Maven?
Well, I wanted to talk trait trees. Now, there's the fact side of trait trees, which we might want to just cover a little bit, like what are they? How do I get points? Is it this? And I'm curious, is it the same operational theme? In other words, blue, red, and yellow, do they basically have sort of the same function, I guess, or the same sort of theme for
Yes.
each class. But what I
Ish.
really want to know from you guys is
It's-
how do I know which one to pick, and should I keep more than one tree up to date? So, what do you guys? I know they're relatively new. Trait trees are,
Uh,
right?
Yeah. They came out in update 14, if memory serves.
Yep.
Okay.
You get points. There's basically three ways of getting points, which are kind of like two. Point, like, first way is you just level up, and every
Right.
odd level, you'll get a point.
No,
Starting
they
at
came out
7.
in update 12, just for fact checking
12,
people.
yeah.
Houndsditch.
It
Oh,
was
wow.
2013
Yeah.
when they came out, the very end of 2013.
So you get points by leveling up, and so like you get a skill on even levels, and then a trait point on odd levels.
Odd levels,
Almost
okay.
almost always the way it works. And that's one way. The other way is through deeds. Sometimes deeds will give you, whether it's your class deeds by using certain skills under the class section of the deeds panel, and through big battles. When you get 200 promotion points, you get 200 or another 200 points, another 2 trait points. So
Oh, wow.
at 100 big battle promotion points, you get one, and then another 100, you get a second one.
You can also earn them by completing zones in Western Rohan and in Central Gondor. I don't know if there's one for Western Gondor or not,
I don't think so.
but I believe that there is one for completing the Central Gondor storyline, and I know there's one for the different zones in the Westamnet.
Yeah, each zone in the Westamnet, finishing the storyline will give you a trait point. There's like 6 or 7 in there, and then another 2 or 3 in Gondor.
Yeah, I'm still missing a couple.
Yeah. So I've got all except the big battles one. It's the last one I have to get, and I'm probably never going to get it. But yeah, like the others said, it works. Each line is sort of the same across all classes. Usually it's like blue will be healing or defense, and then red will be damage, and then yellow will be like kind of the off thing. So
Some sort of support.
some sort of support class.
So yeah, I was got the. It looked to me like yellow was more for like doing stuff in groups, right? It has more stuff.
Sometimes.
Well,
oriented
not
towards group
necessarily,
stuff.
because for the
Sometimes.
hunter, the yellow is their best
Oh, that's
solo
true.
line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yellow is.
That's true. Yeah. I
Yellow
tried
is
to-
just
I-
their
Yeah, I
special
play
line
yellow
that's
solo.
really specialized for their class, typically.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, okay,
what I would
okay.
sum it as. Yellow tends to be like that thing that class can do pretty well.
Yeah. Okay.
Someone
Okay.
in cable.
Or like better than
That's
all
true
of the
because
other
I
classes.
I
guess.
use yellow on my Bjorning too. Now that I think of it.
Yeah,
No
it's sort of
one
like the
talks about
support.
that one.
Yellow Cable Net Dragon says yellow is the neglected child of the family, and most of us never talk about it.
I know.
It's-
The hunter. When I discovered yellow line on the hunter, I was like, yeah, baby.
Explosions, right?
Oh my God! Exploding arrows, ranged
Oh,
traps.
yeah.
I mean, golly,
great.
Terry
It's
and I
really
are really
great.
getting good at like, I'll throw the trap and then she'll lead the the mob into the trap and then she'll just mow
Yeah,
them
we've
down.
actually
You
gotten
know.
that down pretty
Awesome.
good. I
We
go
have, yeah.
up and grab everything, and I bring it back to her traps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yellow being the
And what was it?
neglected
Something the other
child.
day what got caught in the trap the other day that we laughed about? Somebody got caught in a trap. I forget. We were doing something and she was
a
like,
falling down trap. It was hilarious. I don't remember what it was. It was something when
yeah,
we
I forget. Anyway,
No,
Yeah.
no,
my
it's
favorite one with the
Torchbearers in Defense of the Prancing Pony.
oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
one
were
of my
saying, Pinely?
favorite one of my favorite ones with the trap was in Ivendem, where I was always completely afraid of those goblin groups where you
Yeah.
have the
Right.
goblins all together.
Right.
And one time I was going there with my hunter. I put down one of those triple traps there, and all 4 goblins. It's like my original arrow kills 1 goblin, the other 3 get instantly killed by the trap.
But the trap. Yeah, I love when that happens. They just like keel
Fantastic.
over as soon as I hit the trap. And I love the decoy. I use the decoy all the
yes,
time.
decoy sequence.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, but so now, is it a good idea for a player to keep all 3 trait lines up to date? Or no, well, first of all, you don't get 3 trait lines, you get 2.
Right.
Is it worth buying the 3rd one, and then should you keep them all 3 up to date even if you're not using
I
one
would
or 2?
say most classes you don't need to buy a 3rd one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a lot of classes, you're fine with doing like if you're a hunter, you might have a class that you like. If you're in groups or something, your job is just pew pew pew, or
Right.
the other one might be if you're solo and you need survivability, or if you're like a champion, AOE, which is yellow, single target, red. And then if
Mhm.
you're called on to tank, you can make a trait line then. I have like a guardian really usually only needs two, tanking and for damage. I
Right.
I got a third one because I wanted one for to try different ideas and things like that. So I have a different trait line that I use in the wars. So like you don't need a third one, but definitely it's a good idea to keep up with what each trait line can do so you know your class.
Right.
Like on my Runekeeper, it's only like in its 20s or something, but I already decided like I'm going to be alternating between fire and lightning, between red and yellow for damage every level. So I get an idea of like, oh, this is how you play this half the class. This is how you play that half the class. Because there are a lot of differences. There really are. And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
really good. That's a really good suggestion. I with my Runekeeper, I've only been playing the red. I haven't really played the yellow, and I need to do
Well,
that.
to
Um,
me, I can't. I'd had trouble. I would have trouble playing the Runekeeper in red simply because it's by the time I get anything off, I'm being bashed in the head.
see, like I haven't had a problem with it. Granted, I'm only level 21 or 22,
Yeah.
something like that. But from what I've heard, like if you get a good rotation down and stuff, that this you can actually pretty survive pretty well and pump out so much damage in red.
I did pretty good. I mean, I'm at 63, and I was fighting. They were blue, light blue mobs, so they weren't right on level. But and you're right. I mean, they did get close, but between the runestone and my rotation, I was able to do pretty good with the
Well,
ropes.
you got to
So you
remember,
were
is I'm
burning
usually
them
doing
down?
skirmishes, so I'm running
Oh,
about 3 or 4
oh
opponents at the
yeah,
same
true.
time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I knew one runekeeper that played blue line all the time, and he would always throw down his healing runestone right when he started to fight, and then he would fight blue solo. I was
Yep.
like, whoa, that was
You'll
Yeah,
pretty
you can
awesome.
never
totally do
die.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Anyway,
interesting.
so I was wondering, let's see, let's see, was there something else I wanted to ask? I thought, oh, and then how do I know which one to pick? But I think, Era, you pretty much talked about that. So it's kind of based on your fighting style, whether you do a lot of solo versus group.
The only way to
Um,
really know is to test them and just try it. Like
right,
it doesn't really cost that much to switch them out.
right.
Just try different stuff. And another thing is don't be afraid to go into multiple trait lines. Like
Mhm.
you can like on my Guardian, what I have in the Moors is you can spec red and you can say this is the trait line I'm choosing, but I've got a lot of points into yellow because yellow is a tanking line and it's got a lot of self heals and debuffs and stuff like that. So I get a lot of survivability. Not quite as much damage if I'd gone straight red, but you can put points into other lines as well. They
Only
cost
thing
two
is, it
points
costs you
instead of one.
two, yeah, two
Right. So
points. Yeah.
it's a little bit limiting, but it's fun to play around and see what kind of results you can get with different builds and things like that. Like if you're in your straight damage line and you're having trouble surviving, maybe dip into your blue line or your yellow line. See if there's some stuff that you can get to pick you up. Maybe you can get a big heal. Like
Well, and the other thing is,
that'll
you can
help you
actually
out a lot.
change lines as long as the people you're with, if you're in a group, if you're solo, it's not an issue. You can switch lines in the middle of something. I mean, you
Yep.
don't have to like commit to it, and
Or
you
like
know.
on Hunter, sometimes I'll start off in yellow, throw down all my traps, and then switch to red, focus up, and then
Ah,
just burn something down. Between me burning it down faster in red and the traps from
right.
yellow, it's dead.
Mm. That's
Yeah.
pretty
So
cool. One thing also
Yeah.
to consider was actually two things. One is that there are some deeds, like Kibble the Dragon pointed out in the chat, is that you can't finish certain deeds unless you switch up to use a skill that's only in a particular trait line. So it's
Mm,
good to kind of mix them up. Like I
Which
know
is
that
really annoying.
there's
yeah,
one skill that I had to use, and it was the fastest cooldown at redline on my champ. So I just went redline on my champ for 2-3 weeks while I was working that skill out, and then I switched back to running yellow, which is what I run most of the time. But the other thing is there is a website that somebody's put together that allows you to play around with your points. Now I'm not sure if it's up to the most up to date build. It might be
it
stuck at
is. Yeah.
15.1
oh,
or
you see, it's like doing a
15.2.
what if scenario.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
it's
can apportion your points.
LOTRO, ttp.lotrostats.com, which is LOTRO Trait Tree Planner. And
Oh,
you
okay.
can go into this site and you pick your class and you pick your specialization. Then you can spend points willy-nilly to kind of see what kind of benefits and minuses you're going to
Oh,
get without
interesting.
having to drop the silver and reset your trait tree every time. Because
Right.
I know
Right,
I've,
right.
I've used that many times to
Oh
see, well, if I
yes.
have 20 points, what's my best way I can set up right now in survival?
Oh, that's great.
And
That's
so
a
you don't even
great
have to be in game per
resource.
se to use that. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty nice.
awesome. Well, good. All right.
And the trick
So
really is to
are you
read
guys
the tooltips.
Yes.
yes.
Speaking as
Yes.
somebody who
I don't
traded the
think we can
first time
say
without
that.
actually reading tooltips, read your tooltips.
I'm a
Mhm.
big one for t-shirts. That's another good t-shirt. Read the tooltips.
Read the tooltips.
So how do you, the older players, the grandpas and grandmas among us, if I don't know, Terry, if you were there before, but how do you feel about the trait tree shift over? Is it
I
is it
actually
good?
like it. Having I did play the game before Trade Trees came in, and I'm
So did
probably
I.
one of the few older players that actually liked the tree system quite a bit, because I had a lot of trouble picking up different classes. Like, I knew the champion really well, but I hadn't really leveled much else beyond about level 20 or so. And so now I've got, my champ is at cap. I've got the hunter at level 85. I've got the mini at level 70, whatever, and various classes up in the 50s. So
So
it's definitely
been
it's been
easier to pick
extremely
up on.
useful for me. Yeah, and while in some classes this was more prevalent than other classes, you had a lot of, like, the champion pre Helm's Deep had a lot of skills. A lot of skills, and we still have a lot of skills, but not quite as many. And I find that I don't have as many skills that I'm not using that I
Mhm.
used to have pre Helm's Deep. So, like, all of the skills that I have, I'm using,
Got it.
except for
Yeah.
Second Wind.
On a guardian, like the old method, like before trait trees and stuff, I liked for tanking better, but for damage, the new line is better. Like, so it's kind of a depends upon situation. I mean, and
Right,
it's just
right.
opinion, but I like the old way for tanking. But I mean, trait trees have made the game a lot easier to understand. I think, like Terry said,
Mm-hmm.
like I can go to another class, and I can start to grasp the basics of it comparatively quickly just by looking at those tooltips.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I
They
just like that they finally got the Hunter Yellow line right.
Yeah, I understand it used to really be bad.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the change definitely improved yellow lines a lot across the board.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that I was a really big I was really in favor of the changes moving into them, and that was because from basically since Mines of Moria, the classes hadn't really changed that much because they had been given so many skills that they really couldn't add any more without the classes just being beyond, there wasn't anything left to add to them because they had so many in uh, each of the different paths. And so the solution to that was creating trait trees and taking away a lot of the uh, your skills so that you would be able to then build them back up until the end of the game. Um, and I liked that for the first year or two of the system, which I but the problem now is that it's kind of the same problem that I was at earlier, where I've done all the different types on the classes I play, and so now I'm kind of in the same spot where I was, where these are just the same skills again and again and
Right.
again that I'm using. And so it's more just getting tired of the class being exactly the same again. I really enjoyed the changes they made in Rise of Isengard, where they totally rehauled the champion to a new type of thing. And then I enjoyed it again in Helm's Deep when they redid the champion so that it felt different again. But now I'm to a point where I'm getting kind of bored with the classes I'm playing right now, just because I've been playing them so long and have experimented
Right,
with all the different builds a bunch of times. So
right.
it's to the point where it needs another revamp, but at the same time, there was so much backlash with the last change that I don't even think that
It's
that
probably
one
not even
should.
on the
I don't even think
schedule.
Yeah.
that that one should have happened because of the amount of backlash. Obviously, that's
Wow.
hindsight. But basically, when people logged into Helm's Deep, they just got rid of the NDA immediately because they thought their classes were broken. Because they were, because it was the first build of Helm's Deep. But it got a lot better to the point where I actually liked the system for about 2 years. But now I'm kind of ready for new skills and a little bit different things.
Hmm. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully that was useful for new and old players alike.
All right,
That is
then.
good.
Then let's head into our week in Lotro.
Oh, that's me, I think. My name is first on the list.
Yes, all right. Yes, let's go into our week in Lotro, and let's
Hello.
begin with Maven.
Okay, to the cheering of the crowd, Glordriel Arrow Maven achieved world-renowned status. Yeah! The crowd goes wild. Anybody that doesn't know what that is, you reach kindred status with not every single faction, but I think it's the Eriador factions pretty much.
The 11 factions of Eriador, yes.
Yeah, okay. And she got a new outfit to celebrate. Actually, it's her equipment outfit that's dyed to look really cool. I finally figured out what was keeping me from getting the instance to accompany Eowyn to Dunharrow. I just was like, okay, there's a class, speaking of trait trees, there's a class trait point at stake here, folks. I got to go back to Edoras and see if I can figure out what's up. So I did. There was her serving woman inside. I had neglected to do a quest where she sent me into Eowyn's room. The thing is, none of the quests, there was no indication that that's what I needed to do. All I had
I remember
was,
getting stuck on that too, actually.
yeah, all the quest was take, accompany Eowyn. It never said go talk to what's her name. It was, so I couldn't figure out what was, anyway, that was it. So if you get stuck there, go inside, find the serving lady. She's over on the right. She will send you to take some food to Eowyn, and from there you're good to go. So that was great. And then let's see. I am now trying to coax Terry Edwin to Fangorn so that we can earn baby Huorns, which will take. But there's plenty to do there. In fact, there's some fellowship stuff there. Hint, 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 hint. That will help us get the reps stuff that we need to get the baby Huorns. So anyway, I did more stuff, but I forgot about. But the other people in the group have mentioned it, so I'll let them talk.
Actually,
Carve. Yes, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say the only way that I found that maid servant thing was by like ogling all the tapestries. I just going around like, oh, I know this is something from some story, and I remember this story, but I don't know who those people are. But it was something cool.
And then you bumped into her, right?
And I was like, oh, hey, a quest.
Said, oh, there's a ring over your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying, actually. It's like people get stuck there. Well, Carvette, so how was your week in Lotro?
I'm just imagining Airthreat walking around Medusa going, oh my gosh, this tapestry evokes such emotion of such fantastic epic tales that I cannot recall at this time.
Basically, that's what was going
so
on.
wonderful, and I can't remember why.
Basically, that's exactly what was going on.
I can see that. I wandered around Medusa going, this is really cool. I have no idea what this is, but that's really cool.
Meduseld is one of my favorite interior locations in the entire game.
Yeah, they really knocked it out there. So on Sunday, I was helping Maven's lore master get his LI. She says I probably shouldn't have done it because I was kind of sick at the morning, but it was all right. We were good. We were good. We did, however, I said I was going to do this, and so because I was in the instance of the Walls of Moria pre-Watcher, I was testing a myth I heard on World Chat one time about swimming in the black pool before the Watcher's revealed, getting eaten. Yeah, that doesn't happen. The Watcher knows his cues. He doesn't reveal himself before it's time.
Maybe he's a wizard.
Well, you get a lot of dread.
A lot of dread.
Like out in the middle of the pool. But I swam around for a good 15 minutes. Ain't nothing happened. So I was like, all right.
I could track it. I could watch his dread grew. And then when he got to the other side, it went down again. So it was like,
I was like,
okay, he's out of the danger zone. Now he's back in the danger zone.
Yeah. So that happened. And then we deeded Carndoom, just running around randomly killing things. It was fun. And then I attempted to stream on Thursday night with Mrs. Carve and Moria, and then my computer started doing weird things and decided instead of streaming, it would do a PowerPoint show. So it was more like slides. And that's not very entertaining to watch, and it certainly wasn't very entertaining to play. So we had to kind of call it early, and I'm still trying to figure out what the heck is going on with my computer. Probably because I'm pushing my poor little Athlon 220, 2.8 gigahertz processor with 3 gigs of RAM into things it's not supposed to do. It's like, please, master, no more. I can't take it. So I'm like, all right. So I've talked with Mrs. Carve, and we are in the process of planning an upgrade. So hopefully that will happen in the near future.
I have a feeling Carve has a lot of fun on his own when he's doing voices, just randomly.
It's like doing chores in the house.
My
It's like,
personal favorite is one time we were walking through the girly pink aisle in the toy store, which if you have ever been into a toy store, you know what I'm talking about. And
Yes.
some fortunate soul had left a lightsaber toy, and at the time I had a lightsaber soundboard on my phone.
Oh
So I
my.
grabbed the toy and I grabbed the phone app and I went and then of course I'm dancing around the aisles going ha ha. And at this point my eldest looks at me and goes, "Dad, we're in a store."
I
And I was
really
like,
hope there's
"Yeah,
security cam footage of that and some
That-
guard
that-
somewhere
that would
saw
have been
that.
awesome." Yeah,
Oh,
so
actually, the voice you used there sounded almost like a Darth Vader voice.
where he does.
That's right.
That's awesome. Okay, so Airther, how was your week, man?
It was good. Sort of. My interwebs went down. I was at like 1/4 of a whatever thing instead of where I'm paying to be at like 70 something. So, um, I couldn't really stream at all. I could barely play. I was like
Oh,
getting
bummer.
10% loss on stuff. So it was challenging. But we didn't have lunch this week, which ironically worked out well because I accidentally forgot to put this week on the schedule. So it worked out great. And so that was the thing. No lunch happened this week. But on the bright side, I've been working on getting up a couple bridles because I've been talking with different folks, and some people are convinced that heavy war steed is the best on a guardian, and other people are like, no, a light war steed is the way to go. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to test it. So I've been getting up to legacies that I'll need and stuff like that. So I've got 2 second age level 95 bridles, level 95, because they're easier to max out with the scrolls and stuff. And I'm going to get those all tricked out and see how that goes. So that was what I did. I was working on legendary item stuff.
Am I the only person who likes mediums?
I have a
No.
medium.
I have a medium.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
just wondering because
I'm listening to Airther, and this is what I hear. Well, we're gonna try out one of them heavy war steeds, and we're gonna try out one of them light war steeds, and we're gonna rustle us up some orcs and see who drops them first.
Basically, that's what happened.
That's fantastic.
So I haven't actually had a chance to fully get those done yet, but I have them now, so that's a fun thing. And then I've got another piece of Essence Gear, so that was exciting because now I was like, I'm gonna try to go the full glass cannon route on a Guardian and see if the self heals will do enough and if the damage kind of counteracts it. So on my Guardian, I'm up at like 53,000 physical mastery now. And so I was doing all sorts of stuff and soloing Sambrog. It went so much faster. And I was like, oh, this is so much fun. So I was having a lot of fun with that piece of Essence Gear. And I was making sure that I'm up for update 16 with a Central Gondor story. And it turns out there's a lot less of it than I thought there was. So I was done without even realizing it. And that's it.
That was depressing at the end.
all right.
Sorry. You guys, guess what? I'm ready for update 16, Central Gondor story. This is the first time that I will ever actually experience a zone on release.
That's
That
awesome.
that has never
That
happened
is
for me.
awesome. I
So,
have yet to experience this.
I am
Maybe
excited.
next time I will be ready.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not ready. I'm still a little bitty 100 going, wait for me, everybody. So I just figured I'm not going to try. I'm just not going to try.
All right. Terry, what did you do?
Well, my highlight of the week is that I skirmished with Pineleaf.
Ooh.
Ooh.
We did Fords of Bruinen for the Mythgard Monday skirmish, and originally there were supposed to be 6 level 100s, and by the time we got to the actual skirmish, one person had left, one person didn't have the skirmish, so that made 4, and we weren't going to try and 4-man a 6, so we split up into 2 groups. Because, yeah, we're
That would've been-
experienced
That
enough
would have
players
been nasty.
to not try that. So I got to do Ford of Brunnen skirmish with Pineleaf, and that was a lot of fun. At one point, we got an encounter, and I was heading toward it, and he was like, "No, wait till after this pull. There's a lieutenant coming," and our lieutenant turned out to be Wretched Falconer, and I was like, "Yeah, nope, I'm gonna go do the encounter."
Yeah, Wretched Falconer. Yeah, never mind.
bring him over
Carry
to
on.
when he's like killed all those birds.
They're one of my favorite like lieutenants, just because it's like, just keep doing what you're doing. The AoEs will kill them off eventually.
Yeah,
It depends what class you are. If you're a champion, yeah, but if you are one who has to do careful target selection or something like that, it could be a bit annoying.
Yeah.
yeah. Basically, what happened was I went down to do the encounter, and about a minute or so into beating on the lizard or whatever it was I was killing, I noticed that everything else from the last pull was over at me because Pine Leaf had helpfully brought it all over to me.
Nice.
Shing shing, everything died. And then we did Karn Doom Deeds with the Tuesday group. I actually died the least of anybody in the group. I was going to say that I didn't die at all, except when we were doing Helchscan, we discovered that there's a really interesting bug in Helchscan
Oh my gosh.
with a Bjorning. If you're running Karn Doom with a Bjorning and the Bjorning engages the tentacles will flee to the other side of the pool. So you have to go chase them. So we did a lot of extraneous running around that probably shouldn't have happened. And the first time we were engaging tentacles, we were all on a metal platform that ended up not being there, so it dumped like 4 of us into the soup, including like all 3 people who could do reses.
Yeah, that was interesting. I've never seen those mechanics before. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
What's up with that?
Bjorning mechanics. Don't trust
Dude, the
them.
tentacles are like scared of bears. It was so weird. And our tank was the Bjorning, so he's like aggro. The tentacle's like, oh heck no. I'm out of here. I signed up for no bear.
Maybe it's
And
like
then
elephant mouse syndrome.
Maybe, I don't know.
Could be.
I ran the Defense of the Prancing Pony with Trish, and we also did some slaying for Rep in the Lowlands.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Terrapin is my first character ever to get kindred with the Eglain, because I've never gotten it before.
That's really
It
not
took
descriptive.
a lot of killing, and she finished the meta-deed for the Lowlands like forever ago, but still had that ally hanging on that needed to be kindred. So I did like a lot of killing of orcs and more orcs and even more orcs, and turned
And
in
I
a
did
couple.
discover a day too late for you that the whites and the the whites over at Nandaloo also give rep, but by that time you'd already done it. So
Well, it didn't matter what I killed. I'd already completed all the Slayer deeds, so it was like I could do. And then, of course, today I discovered that we could have won that skirmish at Weathertop and like got
that's
LF.
right, knocked it
And,
out.
uh,
Yeah.
Like marks and stuff.
So
Yeah,
finally,
yeah.
what did you do?
All right, the first thing I did was run Fort Brunnen with Terry Adwin. Oh, I know, shocker.
I know.
Pineleaf wasn't that excited. Notice how that, just saying.
Yeah. Terry enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
Now what?
Moving on.
Yes,
He
moving
has
on.
no response.
She said,
Well, what
No,
happened?
it was Fort
Well, when I was
Brunnen.
I was trying to decide when starting the skirmish whether to do it at tier 1 or tier 2. I decided that since it was Mythgard Monday and we're very late at night, that was the only reason why in the end I decided to go with tier 1, and it's like we just steamrolled the whole thing.
Yeah, we could have done it at tier 2,
Yeah, I think we could have done
and
it tier
probably
2.
still been done first.
It's still been done first, yes. But I wasn't sure at the time, so therefore I wound up taking the easy route on that. But someday we will have to try again at tier 2.
Cool.
All right. And I also started volume 2 of the Epic Storyline on my Bjorning series. So therefore, I'm currently in Dolven View, the early parts of Moria, and I'll be running the series at least until Mirkwood. After Mirkwood, probably I'll start a volume 3 after that because I'm doing this whole thing by volumes.
And that's your second Bjorning to go through Volume 2, right? Or through
Yes.
that area? It's cool.
Right, because I have a capped Bjorning that's already been through there.
Yeah. So, see, Pineleaf, you really are on your path to becoming, the Bjorning expert and not the Warden. We warned you about this many episodes ago.
nice.
And Also, on my Arkenstone Loremaster, I was running some quests in Eregion with Brannick, and one of the mobs actually dropped a level 50 slotted item. And I looked at this thing and saying, that's the first time I recall seeing a slotted item that was that low of a level because I'm used to seeing them up in the 80s and 90s and not seeing any low level ones before. Because I was wondering where are the essences dropping if you never see any slotted items, and this slotted item drops for me.
Now, do you
Yeah, I have one
recall
too.
if it was a yellow, a purple, or a teal?
Let's see. I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was cyan. So
Oh, that would have been nice because I think I have a yellow one in my vault that's only got two slots on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like base stats are so lame compared to everything else I can get at level 50. I only kept it because it looked cool.
yeah, there is that. So I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with it because I think I need one more essence before it will beat my current item. So ending, what did you do?
Well, I am torn between saying this and doing the skirmish, but I think we're going to do both this week anyway. So here's what I did this week. I wandered around Middle Earth, and I know that that sounds kind of boring, but I actually just kind of wandered around looking at the different landscapes and just remembering all the quests that go through there and stuff like that before we're going into the new area this week. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of tour around some of the older landscapes. And I went to the Argonath, which is just still as amazing as it was the first time it was made. I went through all of Lothlorien. I went through Moria. Um, like literally every major zone that's like the fan zone I went through aside from like the most recent Gondor stuff. So I had a lot of fun going around Middle Earth this week.
All right then.
Cool.
Then let's head into the skirmish of the week since I suspect that ending is going to insist on it.
That's right, finally. Well, the thing is, it's about Radagast this week. So if we postpone an episode about Radagast, what does that say about us? There's, you know, there's really not that much to talk about Radagast. So if we
That's
can't
true.
fit that
That's
in, then
true.
that says something.
That's pretty
All right.
sad.
All right, let's go. That is right. This week is what are the pros and cons of Radagast? And this week we have ending. Speaking of the pros for the books, the con would be Pine Leaf. For the films, pros would be Carvette, cons would be Terry Atwin, and for the games, pro would be Maven, and the con will be Erithert. So let's begin with ending.
Wow, this sounds kind of official now. Yeah.
Ooh.
All right. Well, the good pro about the books about Radagast is that he was mentioned more than the Blue Wizards.
Supremacy of brown over blue has been established.
That was good.
That's all I
That's
got,
good.
but that's all I need, I think.
Just for everyone to know, he specifically told us before we started that he had a pro that he wasn't going to tell us until the show. So
Yeah,
that was
I
we
can
got to.
understand now. And,
understand.
and,
You
and
know
my-
now.
yes, that is the problem with the Radagast is that he has virtually no screen time in the books. He's mentioned offhand during conversation with Bjorn in the Hobbit and in Lord of the Rings. Gandalf tells about a conversation he had with Radagast, but that's just about
And
it.
then the only other thing you get is Saruman's reaction.
Yeah,
to
his reaction. Yes, his insulting
Yeah.
Radagast Brown, saying how, you know, how that brown dimwit useless and all
Right.
that stuff.
Right.
So therefore, there's very little information on it. So yes, Pro is more mentioned than the Blue Wizards. In fact, there's so little mention of it that
On.
Irvine can't officially talk about the Blue Wizards. because they're not directly mentioned in the Lord of the Rings. And the con is that, yeah, but there's almost nothing said about even Radagast.
That's
So let's go into the
right.
films where Radagast certainly appears a lot more often. So, Corvette, what are the pros?
Well, one of the things I like about Radagast, and this has very little to do with Lord of the Rings, apparently, is that because he is played by Sylvester McCoy, who is a rather goofy actor who brings a rather goofy spin on this wizardy character, who is like your textbook enigmatic woodsy weirdo. And one of the things I like about Sylvester McCoy is that he also played Doctor Who. He was the Seventh Doctor. And one of the fun tie-ins that I recall is that one of the future characters who deals with the Doctor says, "I hate fairy stories because they always turn out to be him, especially when there's a wizard involved." And so she makes this kind of backhanded remark that the Doctor, who is played by Sylvester McCoy, turns out to be a good wizard from a story, which actually is Sylvester McCoy as Radagast. So it made me laugh.
It just
I'm
gave me a headache.
I'm crossing fandoms here, so if you know what I'm talking about, yay. If you don't, then there you go.
Then
So
you're everyone.
yeah,
I enjoyed the one that Peter Davison did a special, who was also a Doctor Who, and who was also the father-in-law of one of the Doctors Who. Before the new Doctor Who came out, there was a special about, he went around saying, what's the best Doctor? Or it was a thing about they were trying to get into the final,
I'm
Matt
trying to
Smith's
get into the
final
50th.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 50th, yeah. And so Sylvester McCoy shows up with a Hobbit T-shirt on, and
Yeah.
he keeps like, oh well, Peter Jackson's going to call me any moment, and I'm going to have to go back to New Zealand. I mean, it was this really, he just kept like dropping the fact that he was in the Hobbit movie, which I thought was hilarious in that particular show.
But, well, it's funny because at one point they actually show a conversation between Peter Jackson and Ian McKellen.
Right, that's right.
That's
And they're
awesome.
like, "Where's Sylvester? Oh, he had to go do something. Well, we don't need him. We'll just cut him from that."
That's right. That's
Oh,
right. That's
snap.
right. That's right. That's right. And it's almost like Jackson goes, Sylvester who?
Well, that's appropriate.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
But yeah, I mean, as a character, I
I
really
get it.
enjoyed the way they did Radagast as this really kind of woodsy guy that really just kind of is about the animals, and you could tell people were like, "Oh yeah, I have this other job," So
It's
anyway,
interesting how, like, from speaking from the book's experience, Gandalf is the only wizard who does his job.
That we know of.
Yeah, of the five wizards that we know of, he's the only one who did his job of protecting, Middle Earth and helping fight against Sauron. Because like you got Saruman did his whole thing, and then the other two blue wizards went off and troll around wherever they went, and kind of missed the fight. Unless they did it helped over there, we don't know. But then Radagast, I can't remember who it was like he kind of copped out and just went and lived with the animals.
Well,
I mean, he was really good at that.
There's a
but-
theory behind that he was actually on a secret mission by the goddess of nature and all that stuff, in order to basically protect the animals from Sauron.
Yeah.
And
Maybe.
in fact, that would be a very important thing considering how Sauron corrupts everything that goes near him.
So Radagast isn't necessarily a failure for, the mission. It's just that he might have had a different mission. Or he failed. Either way.
All right, then.
but
Carry
he's
on.
got
Either way,
False to
there
Bell
wasn't-
rabbits.
Either way, more Radagast.
All right. Terry, what do you say about Radagast or Sylvester McCoy in the movies?
Well, there's being close to the animals, and then there's being a little too close to the animals. Because bird poop, really, guys. So yeah, it's cool that he's kind of this contrast to Gandalf and Saruman and this not real serious guy, but I sort of have to agree with Saruman that he's had a couple too many mushrooms, and he's maybe a little too out there.
Well, I would have to agree that he is a little bit on the deep end, so to
I
speak.
like how she sides with Saruman, the guy who totally goes crazy and builds a whole orc army and, invades the Shire just because. So, assuming that, considering that means that Radagast is probably even crazier. So, just like to point that out.
Thanks, Andang.
You're welcome.
All right, then. Let's go into the games then. Maven, what are the pros for the game?
Well, so to leverage what Terry was just saying, I will say, I will admit that in the movies, you do get sort of Radagast as an animal lover and stuff, but just over the top, just over the top. And I actually started playing the games after I saw Radagast in the Hobbit film. So I think my pro is probably colored by the fact that I was so relieved to see Radagast in the games. But I mean, I got to say, he was more aligned with my thinking. Although I just shared with the chat room that originally my view of Radagast, all those years that I was reading with no other visual, ability to see what this guy looked like, I always thought of him more like morphologically like Santa Claus, jolly and fat, only dressed in brown with accents of blue and with ginger hair and beard. So that was always how I kind of pictured Radagast. So the Radagast in the movies, of course, is very different, and the Radagast in the games is very different from that. But I think Radagast in the games really does present the Astari, an Astari. He's more Astari than
Yeah.
the Radagast in the movies. I mean, he really does come across as a wizard. And I mean, I love the fact that like the one instance that I've done with him multiple times now is the one where you go and you face down Ivar or try to. And I mean, it just cracked me up because, he goes off with his animal friends, and it's like, oh, you go fight those things. I'm going to go talk to the squirrel over here. And I just think that's a riot. I just think that's a riot,
Yeah.
So, so I think that he's really well done. I really like Radagast a lot in the games.
I think they did a really great job of fleshing out what little was there in the books and turning
Yeah,
it into this
yeah.
really believable character in the games.
I agree. I think they probably pulled from, books that they don't have, rights to in terms of thematically. I'm sure they did. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they really did a nice job with him.
All right, then. Then, Aerithard, what are the cons?
He's a jerk.
Oh, you're just sour grapes. You're just sour grapes, boy.
All right,
No,
why
like,
is he a jerk?
In more seriousness, he's just like, he stands in his tower. Like, I seriously think he has a mild case of paralysis until partway through the quest line, because he just stands there like, and his like feet are super glued to the floor, and then you talk to him and you run out and you do stuff. He's like he pulls an Elrond, and then
I was gonna say, and that's different from every other NPC in LOTRO. How?
yeah, it's not. But he comes back and he's like, oh hey, what's up? You're back. Yeah, I died 6 times trying to do. Okay, cool. You got to go back there, and those guys that killed you, that you didn't need to kill, you got to kill those guys now. Like maybe it was the quest line frustrating at the level, and then when you go through the instance, he's just like kind of strolling through.
Well,
and stuff.
I do it.
And then
that's through that instance. He just when I first went through it the first time, it was like he just stood there. He just stood there, and there's like a bog. There's a bog lurker standing over there, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? And he's just like, looking around,
Total
I'm like,
space cadet.
So finally, I realized I'm supposed to step forward and go kill the thing, and he's like, and then when I do, then he moves on, and then we move to the next one. He's like, ha 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 ha.
And then,
jeez.
At least he's not crying like Oakheart.
Oh, or Lalia, for God's sake.
Or Lalia.
Oh my gosh.
And then like he does heal you.
Yeah, he does heal you.
Nice, but he waits until the last moment, and you're like, could use a heal. I could really use a heal here. Nice, but thank you.
He doesn't want to waste his power.
And then like the rest of the time, he's probably like petting a squirrel and like talking to the bog lurker, being like, hey, look at this idiot. Like, I guess I'll heal him now or whatever. I could keep him full health, but what's the fun in that? Like.
That's true.
Uh,
But
all
overall,
right
like
then.
in all honesty, slightly less trolling. Like I do like getting to see Radagast in the game and getting to interact with him. It's like yay, we can talk to the guy, and he's actually here for
It was
some
fun
reason.
seeing. It was fun seeing him at Grimbjorn's too when I rolled my Bjorning.
Yes, I like that
That was
bit.
pretty cool.
All right then. Anyone else have anything they wish to add?
One thing cons about the films is besides that he's too much bird poop. The whole
And crossed eyes.
yeah and rabbit sleigh. Maybe that's why maybe they took your idea of Santa Claus and went way too far.
Yeah.
Um, but is the whole geography like he took those things from Mirkwood to the Lonelands across under through the mountains? Question mark.
I
How? Why?
know. I know.
That's one thing that has always been like, go on, tell me the
You
rest of your
assume
story.
he
that I
only
can't
has one
believe.
bunny sled.
No, I don't. He probably
In
has.
effect,
He's probably got a Pony Express station on the top of one of the mountains.
Well, and of course,
those
they never even said how he got to the High Fells. He just showed
Yeah.
up.
He
So
just
yeah,
gets
but
the-
remember, those are Rostabel rabbits.
Oscabel rabbits.
yes.
They're fast.
They're fast, but they got to either go through Moria, through the passes, or around the Gap of Rohan.
Well, they're obviously been hitting on
By the way,
Santa Claus's magic
I
dust.
do have to admit that my 23-acre homestead where I live is named Roscobel. And I actually have a section that's probably about 5 acres that's just like nasty. I won't even go back. There's wood, and I'm going to put a Mirkwood sign in front of it.
Nice.
So, yeah, all the rednecks around here, once I put my sign up on my gate, are going to be like, "What's that? What's Ross Gobel?" But anyway, too bad.
All right
Just gonna-
then. Anyone else have anything else they wish to add?
Radagast is great.
I agree.
Radagast for Wizard. 2016.
Very well. We currently have 6 supporters on Patreon, and if you would like to join this illustrious fellowship of players and help support the LOTRO players, simply go to the donation page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you will find rewards, including a mention on the podcast of your choice, or even be a guest on an episode of LOTRO Players News. And how far are we from the next Skull Landing?
Well, we're actually farther somehow.
What?
Even though we have 9 patrons now, so that's a little bit out of date. So yeah. But, we have more patrons, so that's cool. That's going in the right
Awesome.
direction.
All right then. Then it's a fellowship from the books as opposed to the game.
That's right.
We do not have any reviews this week on iTunes, but if you'd like to send us one, we would most appreciate it. But we do have a featured comment. Sue Helm left a comment on last week's show. Tipsy in Lotro. My favorite occurrence is in the Moria drinking farewell quest chain. Brewing and pipeweed was a big thing in the early game. Nowadays, it is not so visible. No more beers have been introduced in ages. But with the birth of ale beer crafting, I am pretty sure Turbine are missing a great marketing tool. How about a Locho player craft beer collection?
That's a good idea, actually.
If I remember correctly, there is actually someone with a microbrewery who was
There
making
was.
various ales and beers from the game.
There
Oh, wow.
was, and they actually sent some to American Golden Star back in the day. So if you listen to some of the
Nice.
old CSTM podcasts, there's references to that. So
Awesome.
And here are some of Sue's suggestions for them. The Erithert Ale, like an arrow in your heart, powerful brew. The Corvette Stout, pour this beer on your collar, a truly distinctive beer.
What does that mean?
I'm not sure what mine means.
I
Shot
don't
through
know.
the heart, and the beer's to blame.
The
A bad name.
The
Yeah.
Maven beer, a hearty beer that hits one in the stomach quite expertly.
accurate. I'm just kidding.
The
Nathan.
te-
I'm
The
just kidding.
Teriadwin Ale, a pale ale which requires bravery to drink.
I don't know.
You betcha.
It's Sue.
Yes. Pine leaf lager, piney with a fresh yet sharp hint of forest that prickles the tongue. The Andang Ale, a red ale, almost flaming beer with a spicy finish.
It's I told you it's not flirting.
Listen to our bloopers and you'll understand all of this,
Yes.
maybe.
The
We
Lily
still don't
Kate
really understand.
Lager, yes, the Lily Kate Lager, a beer with melodic mix of Italian grappa and London gin overtones, with a
Yes.
tricky tinky hidden in the background. And there are
I
also
think
some
that's the best one so far.
guest beers. The Dracula, a bloody punch in the face of a beer.
That's been sitting on the shelf for a while.
Yes. The Braxwolf Porter, a dark ale with which imparts the beneficial qualities of the hair of the wolf that bit you the night before making you run off in a howl at the moon.
Okay.
Don't ask. And the Etheros Ale, a brainy beer from Wales, not a pale imitation, made from coals in the valleys. Also, Tipsy Lotro play in RW. Been been there and sleep is my biggest enemy. Have woken up with a face on the keyboard a couple of times. Balrog's song awesome. Needs a video. Fangorn sounds great. I was also disappointed by Mirkwood too. Empty of mobs, let alone trees. Pineleaf suggested the orc chopped trees, orc on a fork in Nile, pine and leaves, and oops, longer than intended. Great show though.
Okay.
That
Right.
is very, 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 very typical Sue comment.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
All right, very well. And we also have an email from Gray and Maven. Could you please read this?
Sure. Hail and well met. I stumbled across the poll from a few months back, which is, would you listen to a LOTRO player's role-playing podcast? Asking if there was interest in a show with the host doing a role-play show. I noticed there's only a 25% no response, interpreting the amalgamation of all the other responses as a 75% yes response, and was wondering if there were any plans to follow through with that idea. I understand between all the upcoming LOTRO stuff and the secret project, there's been a lot to keep your attention. At any rate, I think a LOTRO role-play campaign would be very interesting to see play out. If you do decide to try this out, I would be equally interested in GMing the match. I'd imagine you'd want as many of the hosts as possible to participate as players, or at least in helping with the setup or production. Lately, I have been investigating various rule sets and working on campaign settings as a side hobby, and can recommend a few mechanics and resources for making an RPG podcast a reality, depending on the flavor and focus you'd like for the show. If you've scuppered the plans for such a show, feel free to disregard much of the above. Looking forward to seeing the secret project unfold. Keep up the good work. I think 2015 is going to continue being an interesting year. Best, Gray.
So I'll address this because I replied back to him in an email, and I'm really glad he brought this up because I've gotten a lot of questions on this, so I figured it was about. I kept meaning to address this on the show, and thankfully we finally got an email so I could remember to. So basically, we are still wanting to do this roleplay show. Obviously, a few things happened over the course of the show. We had everyone that we had planned to do the roleplay show leave the show aside from me and Pineleaf. So that was obviously a big stumbling block. I feel like that now our group is kind of to a point where we'd be good, in a good spot where we have enough inside jokes and things like that to do a show like this. That being said, the secret project right now is taking up a lot of people's time, and so we probably can't do this until at the earliest later in the summer, and maybe not for a long time. But the good news about a role-playing podcast is that even after Lotro's over, if LOTRO ever ends, we would be able to still do this show because you
That's
wouldn't
right.
need
That's
LOTRO to
true.
play it. So
That's
just
true.
throwing that out there, this is probably going to happen someday, just not, we don't know when right now.
But the secret project will kind of scratch the itch for some people.
I think the secret
too.
project will be definitely helping out with that, yeah.
Yep.
All right, very well then. Thank you for your response there, and let's go into our contacts. You could email us by sending us a email at podcast@lotroplayers.com, and you can also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance at Players Ally, Lotro Players at Lotro Players, Andang at PVMP_Andang, Arithert at Arithert, Braxwolf at Braxwolf, Carvet at Carvet LP, Lily Kate at Lily Kate Buggins, Maven at Mindshare Maven, Pineleaf at Pineleaf Niels, and Terry Adwin at Terry Adwin. The Players Alliance has 3 live shows every single week. On Mondays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. On Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Guild Wars Players News. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can join us for our live shows by going to lotroplayers.com/live. Thank you everyone for listening. And this is Pineleaf Niels reminding you to skirmish responsibly.